African Diaspora Forum. The South African flag is smaller than those flags.
No, we spoke about it yesterday. Thank you. I was supposed to give our panelists 3 minutes each to respond, but let me not do that because sorry comrades, we have been given up to 1 o'clock in this place. So what we are going to do, Comrade Helen, I've just recognized you. Be disciplined. Right, so what we are going to do, as I said, that we have a register, we are going to take this discussion further. They are going to respond in our social media platforms, including the former Minister of Trade and Industry. We'll give him all the comments that you have made. What we are going to do now, we'll invite Comrade Moegsein for 5 minutes to do a vote of thanks. Then after that, Comrade Dorothy is going to direct us where we walk from here to. Thank you.
Thank you, Nicholas Mabena. We call him our executive director, so thank you for this morning. I'm surprised he gave me 5 minutes. I thought 2 minutes would be enough. I'm reminded of the speaker who was asked to do a vote of thanks. And the vote of thanks went on and on. And from the 100 people in the audience, eventually 50 was left. And then 30, and then 20, and then about 10, and then 1 was left. And the speaker then turned to the 1 person remaining in the hall and said, "Thank you very much, sir. You really appreciate a good vote of thanks. I really appreciate your presence here." And the gentleman got up and said, "Sorry, sir, man. I'm the janitor. I'm supposed to lock up your arm. I'm waiting for you. I'm waiting for you to finish your speech." So I hope I'm not going to end up in that situation. The theme for today, and I'm just going to try and just touch on very briefly on what all the speakers said, was deliberately contrasted with the political turmoil, the instability, the lack of peace on our continent, contrasted to the hope we have for a better continent, one that is prosperous, that develops. So our comrade Rob Davis, he spoke to us about the Africa Free Trade Agreement, which in a way is showing us there's light at the end of the tunnel if we apply our minds and if we come together as a people and as a continent. Our comrade Ian gave a good analysis, maybe I can call it a geopolitical and scientific analysis of what really is happening now on our continent. And sometimes we tend to forget that what the analysis requires is a bit of a scientific understanding of what is happening in our country, and he gave us an idea of the reasons behind load shedding, etc., etc. My sister non-tobacco was always very good in her understanding of the reasons and the causes of why Africa is so unstable. In particular, I think our sister just mentioned the whole question of, our brother mentioned the whole question of climate change. It's going to lead to much greater instability on our continent, and she touched on it. And of course, we thank you very much, Dr. Maba, for giving us that background, and a background also of what's happening in South Africa. We thank you all for your contributions here this afternoon and this morning. Just very briefly, the African Diaspora Forum is about dealing with the issues around migration. And of course, the issues of migration provides a broader context for what all the speakers said today. On the one hand, migrants are the victims of a lot of things happening. We see our brothers and sisters drowning in the Mediterranean. I read a report last week where the Greek government, non-tobacco will say to us, the cradle of civilization, they put about 100 and odd migrant mothers and children in a boat. It makes me emotional saying it. They towed them out into the middle of the Aegean Sea and left them. If it wasn't for the Turkish Navy to rescue them, they would have also drowned. The cradle of civilization. We see what is happening in the United States. They're trying to put up a wall. But I want to say, in context of the African Diaspora Forum and the whole issue of migration, just a statistic for you to bear in mind. Today, as we speak, there are 100 million migrants on the move. And in terms of what Ian and others spoke about, the colonial borders, etc., the good news is that migrants are challenging these borders all over the world. If you just take the United States, our dear friend Mr. Donald Trump tried to build this wall, but as we speak, the last figure I read about, there are about 400 South Americans who are camped on the Rio Grande wanting to enter the United States. Eventually they're going to destroy that wall. The Europeans tried to build this, what they call Fortress Europe. You know, in other words, they built this thing that's like a castle. In other words, they inside and nobody else will be allowed to come in. It's crumbling. For as long as they are destabilizing the Middle East, for instance, Syria and all these places, migrants are challenging that concept of Fortress Europe. And in South Africa, I think we are hopeful that migrants will also make that contribution, not only to our society, and it's a fundamental principle of the ADF, that migrants are here for the improvement and the betterment of the society in totality. Yes, there are issues, there are other issues about the situation in the country itself, but ultimately migrants will help to bring this country's economy back on its feet and help to make this a greater and a much more diverse society. Let me not be like the other person who delivered a vote of thanks. I see Mabema is already fidgeting in his chair. Thank you, comrades, on the panel for your contribution and for making the time to speak to us today. And in absentia also to Rob Davis for his input on the Africa Free Trade Agreement. And I think Mabena made the point that because we're living in the age of technology and digital environment, this debate must continue. And we will try and keep it alive, take all the points that were made here today, and please interact with us on our social media frame. Lastly but not least, I must thank you, the audience, for coming here today. You know, for the organizers like us who put these things together, and it gets to 10 o'clock and there's about 2 people, and I get the anxious calls from Nicholas Mabena, hey man, where are the people? Then we worry, you know, whether we're going to have an audience. So thank you very much for coming. We really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Comrade Moegsein Williams. He grew up in Cape Town. He's a journalist by training. He's former editor of the Star newspaper. He also edited the New Age. He's